Welcome everyone to the Radio Toons podcast. How's it going?
Going good, man.
I'm Steve.
I'm Ernie.
Hey, guess what, guys? Everyone's up in arms about this She-Ra reboot.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone's so
like, what is it? What is it with all this stuff that's happening? Like, the you were mentioning it earlier that people were upset at the Thundercats remake.
Yeah.
But technically, it's the second Thundercats remake because they did a really cool, serious one back in what was it?
Like 2001, I think, or something. Or I don't know. But I just think it's funny because I don't want to speak for Ernie.
Okay.
But I think we're both sitting on the sidelines just watching people go at it over these fucking reboots.
I don't get it because, not to insult anybody who used to watch the old He-Man and She-Ra cartoons.
I used to hate
but they're
those.
super generic. I mean, it's like a Hanna-Barbera kind of clone where it's like this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Like Scooby and the gang, there's a mansion and there's a ghost.
Yeah.
Then they run away from the ghost. Then Fred makes a trap. They unmask him.
They're really campy and they're really cheesy.
Yeah. And so when they remake them, people are like, "What are they doing? What are they doing? They can't make it like this." It was like, why can't you just let a show evolve?
I think it's interesting because when I hear She-Ra, first of all, before my time, I wasn't even born yet, so I don't give a shit, right? But
give a shit.
But two, I'm like, I don't know anybody who likes She-Ra. Wasn't She-Ra a bad show? Wasn't it a really...
No, She-Ra was not a bad show. She-Ra was just the other side of the He-Man coin because eventually they were working on both simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so it's like they gave the same care. She had her own brand. She had a whole line of toys.
Uh-huh.
She was a big deal.
Well, what I was getting at was so there's people obviously upset that there's a reboot coming out that doesn't look identical to the original, right?
Of course, because why not?
Right. And then there are these people that are saying oh, why can't she be different? Or why can't she be look like this?
Women can do whatever they want.
Yeah, and I just think it's it's suspicious to me. It's suspicious to me because of the fact that I'm reboots in general are usually not seen as a good thing. So
not today.
It's just I don't. It puts me in that state of mind that okay, all of you guys have friends in the industry or something. You don't want to hurt their feelings. That's what it's getting at.
You think that's what it is?
I don't know. I just like I said, I'm sitting on the sidelines. I don't give a shit about this show. I don't even care about the Thundercats reboot because I didn't watch that either growing up. The closest thing that would come to something like that is that they're making an Animaniacs reboot, right? Mm-hmm. Which is still, to me, I'm just I don't fucking care. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, whatever. I've
seen some of the storyboard artists that are working on it. I've started following a couple of them because the voice actor for Yakko, he's the one that retweets their stuff, and I've been watching them. Please let it look like this because
they have some really wacky looking styles, and I'm glad to see that because that to me is the essence of Animaniacs.
I don't think we're gonna get the same Animaniacs because we're in a different kind of era of political correctness and all that.
Sure.
And a lot of their stuff is very sight gag and all that stuff, and cartoons now are very talky. You know what I mean?
Sure. But you know what? You say things like that, maybe what you're trying to say is that these Animaniacs had kind of an adult undertone, or it had a layer for just the adults. Or
no, it's just okay. So you remember they rebooted the Powerpuff Girls?
Yeah.
Okay, they toned down the violence so much in Powerpuff Girls. And they cranked up the mundane school part of the Powerpuff Girls, and I feel like that's what they're gonna do. Wacko Hidden People with a Mallet's gonna get totally toned down. Yakko being super over the top mansplaining intelligent is gonna get toned down, and then Dot being cute is gonna be expanded. So that's not all she is. She's gonna be their one thing that made them the thing that they are is it's gonna be watered down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean the point of the reboots is usually hey, it's gonna sell either way. You know, so who cares? About the quality of it or whatever. So, I mean...
But, the reason I watched Powerpuff Girls was because it was, these cute little adorable girls, and they're knocking people's teeth out. you know, and they're breaking stuff. It's fun to watch that because it's like, what do they call that? Juxtaposition. It's like all this cute stuff, and they can punch the hell out of somebody.
Yeah, I didn't like the Powerpuff Girls very much when I was growing up either.
Really?
I thought the characters looked kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I was, like I said, Animaniacs for some reason to me, obviously, you know, the fucking branding of this channel, was just big to me because of the way it still looked like a 90s cartoon, you know, where it still looked like.
But like you don't have the same affinity for Tiny Toons, right?
No, because Tiny Toons was a little bit before my time.
Right.
And I was gonna say, like, all the Craig McCracken stuff, like even Dexter's Lab, I remember thinking, like, this looks weird and like new. I don't know, like, I will admit that I did kind of like Johnny Bravo, but mostly because I seem to have some kind of affinity for big hunky men as main characters. I don't know what that's about.
I'm gonna leave that alone.
Yeah, just any psychiatrist, please do not delve into that by any means. But
in terms of sheer, like, the problem, like, so I'm like you, sidelines, don't really care. The one thing I will say about it is the artwork looks generic.
Okay.
And by that I mean, like, it feels like, you know how The Simpsons is, like, kind of cookie cutter? Everybody has, like, a base kind of model, and then you build the person on top of it. You know, when you go to the Simpsonize You generator, whatever.
Gotcha.
It looks kind of like that.
You know what, though? It's a hard sell because you think about, like, so like She-Ra and Thundercats and Teen Titans Go, all of those got hold on before you say anything. All of those got massive publicity just because of the fact that they were reboots. Mm-hmm. And I would say that helped it in a lot of ways.
Sure.
And shows like Gumball. Mm-hmm. I actually love Gumball secretly. I love The Amazing World of Gumball, and it's an original show, and it's really out there. It has a lot of crazy shit in it, and it's like, to a lot of people, it's like relatively unknown. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, how would they get that attention? No one's gonna give a shit about a cartoon nowadays. If you're an adult, most likely you're not gonna go back and watch these, you know. Mm-hmm. But the reboots have the power of reaching out to those older fans by default, just because it's a reboot, you know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, okay, I guess a good one would be like Adventure Time. Adventure Time was a show that's like, oh, it's original at its time. You know, everyone kind of does the bro friendship, whatever bullshit now. But at one time, Adventure Time was original. Mm-hmm. And it was good because of that reason. It was
because it was a show that everybody could enjoy. It wasn't just for kids. Like, there was things in it that the themes in it were nice.
And it was really different. It was really different humor as well. You know, like, not to mention the character designs were very, like, okay, it's like the faces are like literally dots in a line, or like, you know. That
started the whole trend of making your character super.
Yeah, like the stringy arms. Pendleton Ward started the stringy arms.
Because as soon as people were like, I want that. I want that. And so everybody made their characters look like that now.
Yeah, even the
even Gumball.
The General Mills, is that who makes Lucky Charms and
oh yeah, they changed them to look like that too.
They have like stringy like bodies and yeah, whatever. Anyway,
I was gonna say really quick.
Yeah,
I like Teen Titans Go.
I know you do.
Because of two things. One,
okay,
they kick up the violence. Like, there's a lot of violence on that show.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, Robin as the loud, overachieving nerd. Mm-hmm. There's a specific episode where he bashes everybody's heads in with his metal staff, because he's calling a staff meeting.
Okay,
and he hits them with the staff.
But
they don't shy away from that kind of stuff. And the second thing is they integrate a lot of music.
Yeah.
And lots of bold text in it. Like, the joke is that they're always screaming on that show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's all about me, but do I think that cheapens the Teen Titan brand? No. You could always go back and watch the regular Teen Titans.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to actually like watch a show with like, I don't want to say like continuity, because I do watch series, but like the original Teen Titans. Mm-hmm. I was always like I would always be in the middle of like an arc when I would turn on an episode, and that kind of turned me off about it. Like,
well, it ended without really ending.
Yeah, so like there was all these weird, I don't know, whatever. I'm not really like a huge Teen Titans fan, I guess. So
I am only because I love the art style that they used.
I'm not an authority on it, I should say. I'm not.
The original Teen Titans was like this weird sort of anime, sort of cartoony feel. Mm-hmm. So they could scream at each other and they could like super deform the characters when they were doing certain things.
Yeah.
And then during fight sequences, it was like this really beautiful animation stuff. And now with the Teen Titans Go, it's all a little more generic, but they get a little more like stretchy in this one. So I dig it. I definitely dig it.
Yeah, it is a little pointier. It kind of reminds me of like Powerpuff Girls or like Dexter's Lab.
Sure.
Whatever.
It's a more simplified version of them.
It's like it looks like. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to pass judgment. I don't really watch the show, so whatever. But it's funny that you were saying that like. You think that a new Animaniacs reboot would be like more politically correct?
Totally.
Because I was watching Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, right? Mm-hmm. And I was watching the episode with Louis Black, and he was talking about how he has a theory that like the world seems to work like a pendulum. Like we're on one side of the argument, and then by the next like 10 years we're on the other side of it. So. Mm-hmm. He has like this theory that like, oh yeah, like in a couple of years we're all gonna be saying fuck being politically correct, and we're gonna be like, you know, just like how we were like back then. And I'm like, oh okay, that's funny. It's a little hopeful in my like in my head. I'm like, oh, that's hopeful because I do get tired of just like constant like people reminding me of how I should act and all this stuff like that. You know, like I don't know. I don't really understand it. I think that's just a side effect of being online too much, you know?
I don't 100% agree with him. I agree that there will be whenever you swing one way, the next generation rebels against that way of thinking and then swings it back. The only problem here is that the internet gives everybody so much information that people who try to rebel and look up, you know, like the way you used to rebel was you'd go to college and you read all this stuff about how people were back in the day, and then you'd be like, you know what your generation did, mom and dad?
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Well, they talk about that. They talk about that too. By the way, the newest season of Comedians in Cars
Getting Coffee
is on Netflix right now. We watched a few episodes, and actually,
Steven watched the whole thing.
Yeah,
I'm catching up right now.
I went through the greatest hits first, right? I went to my Zach Galifianakis, my Dave Chappelle. I went to the big guys, right? And then I kind of just ran out of episodes to watch, so I kind of worked my way down. You know what I'm saying? In the way that I thought, I guess but they were all pretty entertaining. I think this season is probably the best season. He had really good guests on this season. Like I just said, Dave Chappelle, Zach Galifianakis. He had Jerry Lewis, which was his last on-screen performance or appearance, whatever you want to say. Mm-hmm. But yeah, a lot of big hitters, and like I said, good quality episodes. You watched a few, right?
Yeah, I watched the Zach Galifianakis. I watched the Dave Chappelle, and then I came in earlier and watched the Sarah Silverman one with.
That was
Steven.
from last season, yeah.
Yeah.
But the Zach Galifianakis one, all right. Let's just go down the line for a minute, okay?
Okay.
That dude looks so fucking weird now.
Because he's skinny, right?
He's skinny, and he looks like an actor portrayal of himself now. He doesn't look like Zach Galifianakis anymore to me. He's not fat, and he's like, what?
It's amazing that there's a picture online, and you don't have to put it up right now, but if people want to go and look at it, there's a picture online of Zach with his hair completely like done up, cut short, and slicked.
Without the beard, or what?
Without the beard.
Yeah, I think I've seen that.
And he looks ridiculous.
Yeah, he looks different.
He looks so funny, you wouldn't be able to recognize him. And so it's like, it's so funny that Zach has become that beard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know how sometimes they'll do caricatures of people?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the character is that beard. Because even though he's gotten thinner, that beard, as long as he has that beard with him and that, you know, proportion to his head, we know who he is.
You know what? I don't want to repeat what we said last time, because we did say a lot. A lot of the same thoughts come to mind. Number one being, I'm so jealous of Jerry and the fact that he just has all these funny friends that he can just call up, hang out with. That's like what I would want my life to be ideally, right?
Get famous, dude.
Yeah.
Hurry up.
Second thing, A lot of the newer comedians are not as funny as like the comedians that have that kind of like experience or like prestige or whatever you want to call it. You know, like Lewis Black was entertaining just because he's a guy that's been around for a very long time. Or like even Dave Chappelle at this point in his life is like he's gone through a lot of shit. This is like somebody you want to hear about for a lot of reasons. And like Zach Galifianakis was almost just kind of like in awe the whole time that he was like
talking to Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, he was like starstruck, which is another really interesting thing to see. Is like these comedians that maybe you look up to or maybe you like, looking at Jerry Seinfeld like, holy shit, this is Jerry Seinfeld. Like,
it's crazy that Dave Chappelle said that.
Yeah,
that was the crazy part about that particular episode.
Uh-huh.
He said that, man, it's crazy. It's like, I'm starstruck with Jerry Seinfeld here.
Yeah,
it's like Jerry Seinfeld's comedy and Dave Chappelle's comedy, I feel like, are so far apart.
Yeah.
That how does Dave Chappelle look at that and be like, man, he's you know.
I think Jerry will always have the clean comedy angle, and people will respect him for that, you know?
Okay.
Because he's a funny guy, and for the most part, it's G-rated, like maybe PG at some points, but like, yeah, it's tough to be just like a G-rated comedian. I would say like
PG-13.
Okay, sure.
They did a whole episode about not jacking off.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, Jerry just in life, like on that show, he doesn't.
Even in life, they're still talking about. He'll talk about adult themes. He just won't be crass, I think, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if a kid can hear the joke with his parents sitting right next to him, I think it's pretty G-rated. General. I don't know. But that episode's really good, just because I think personally, not everybody. Dave Chappelle just has like that funny voice, you know, like the delivery of just random shit that he says is just like, oh my god, this guy's so funny. Like,
it's so funny you say that, because not to keep jumping around, but when Jerry's talking about Zach Galifianakis, he's like, you could walk on stage and that's funny.
Yeah.
He's like, but I'm not meaning to be funny. He's like, I know, and that's the funny thing. You don't have to worry about being funny. You walking on stage and telling me something horrible, that's funny, just because it's you. And then Zach's like, it's a curse because I was trying to be sincere or something at this family reunion.
Yeah, he was
and everybody laughed at me.
Yeah, I think he said it was like a friend's wedding or something.
Yeah, something like
he was toasting to them, and they were just laughing the whole time. So
it's like, I was trying to be serious.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like a good thing or like a bad thing, you know?
Well, what Zach was trying to say is that it's kind of messed up, because when he wants to be serious, like, he has to say, like, he said that in the episode, he's like, I have to say, I'm being serious.
He should have like a button that he puts on, that
says, I'm being serious right now.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be funny to wear that and say the most horrible thing ever?
Yeah. Sure, why not?
You know, that episode in particular was so kind of off and on for me, because he spent a lot of time at the donut shop.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk more about the Chappelle one. The Chappelle one, he does bring up the fact that he kind of freaked out, right, and went to, where did he go?
Yeah, he went to, I think it was Northern Africa.
He went somewhere crazy, after his show, and they bring it up for a brief moment.
Because everybody wants to talk to him about it, but he's already said what happened.
Yeah, I actually don't know what happened. I didn't watch the Netflix specials. But I'm watching this fucking thing, and Jerry has this bit about like something about his butthole, and he's just like, the butthole has like the worst job in the body, right? He's just like, all the shit goes through there. It's a terrible job. Oh my god, or whatever. And then Chappelle comes in and he says one thing, and I start laughing. He says, yeah, that butthole's got one job, you know, stay shut. and like the way he says it, I'm just like, oh my god, dude, this guy's hilarious. I love this guy.
Jerry's bit was great because he said it's the only part of your body that's connected to everything else. Because like,
that's what it was.
If you're doing a 10-minute set and you're like, nah, can't go right now, guys. He's in the middle of a bit. Hold on, everybody, hold up. And then Chappelle came in with that. He's just like, yeah, stay shut, butthole.
Yeah, that's it. And you know what's funny too is like a lot of the things in that they say on that show like resonate with me. And one thing that Chappelle says in particular, he's like, he said it's always the youngest person in the family that's like the funny one. Mm-hmm. And he says something about like you're the one observing things go past you all day, or like you're the one watching fights go down, and like
he was what he was trying to say was that like he's learning from everybody's mistakes.
Yeah, he does.
And because of that gives you so many different perspectives of the world. Yeah. In your family that you can look back on these like problems and laugh. Yeah. Because people say that comedy is tragedy plus time.
Oh, okay.
So it's like something really shitty happened, and now you can look back on it and laugh.
Yeah, it's true too. I think. I don't know. I'm not trying to say like I'm a fucking comedian, but I feel like that just stuff comes a little more natural to me, just because I've had more like experience watching other people fuck up, as he said, or whatever. So I think that's funny. It was just a really real thing for him to say, and that's that's the reason I watched that show, is because you get this kind of insight that you wouldn't really get anywhere else. Mm-hmm.
I like for one of the previous seasons, and this is kind of what you were saying, is like he's talking to Kristen Wiig in one of the episodes, season 2, I believe, and it's just like as funny as I think Kristen Wiig is, her and Jerry had like nothing to talk about in her episode. She's kind of a newer comedian, but she hasn't been through the same chops as Jerry.
Ironically, though, yeah. So you were saying.
So people like Chappelle who have been through the ringer.
Yeah.
And Zach to some extent, because like, if I guess spoilers for Zach's episode, it ends with the premiere of
Between Two Ferns.
Two Ferns with Jerry Seinfeld, and he does this whole bit about what's it called? He just kind of makes fun of Jerry and all that shit.
That's actually pretty funny. It's not. It's I do like Between Two Ferns. He has a pretty funny show.
It is funny,
but you know what? That kind of goes back to what Chappelle was saying, because Chappelle was or was it Jerry that asked him? He says like all those things that you thought were disadvantages in life were actually advantages, because you wouldn't see some rich kid who has everything go up there and be a funny comedian. You have to kind of go through those trials and tribulations to get there.
Right.
And that's where the material comes from. So it is, in a way, it is kind of what you're saying, that like Kristen Wiig maybe she needs to go through more shit, or like, I don't know.
Right, like I said earlier, it was tragedy, which you could also say like hardships and time equals, because here's a perfect example about how that's true. You go up to somebody and you're like, hey, George Lopez, a person who's been considered a great comedian, his whole thing is reconnecting with people who were growing up with hardships. So he's like, hey, remember when we had to cook bologna and just eat that as opposed to what? Like, that's funny because it's really fucked up that that's all a kid had to eat growing up.
And
that his grandma was super. Right. But his grandma was super abusive to him. Like, supposedly she hit him with the car on 1 or 2 occasions, and it's funny because he's looking back on it. Yeah. But if you saw a kid get hit with a car now, that wouldn't be funny.
Maybe it would be later. Not
exactly.
Right now.
So it's like time afterwards, and that's why I think Jerry talking to Kristen Wiig was more of an experimental one, where it's like, what if I talk to the younger generation?
Yeah, you know what though? Ironically, Kate McKinnon, another female Ghostbuster.
Yes,
she's in this season, and it was one of the later ones I watched because I was like, first of all, I didn't even recognize her. Right? She has real hair, not like.
And by the way, I think that lady's very pretty.
She has a very adorable little smile, and
she does.
What I was gonna say though, what I was actually surprised is that she's very funny, and like
that sucks, Steve.
I say that. You really think that's fucked up after me watching Ghostbusters?
Listen, she has a body of work outside of Ghostbusters, and besides, she's like a third character in that? Like, the 2 main characters are the ones you should be focusing on. She's just got punchlines, She's the person in the background, and you're like, she's just not fun. It was like, what did she have other than like, hey, I do the inventions? That's what she does. She doesn't have a lot of big lines. She doesn't have a story arc. She doesn't have anything.
You could still be funny in that.
You could still be funny, which she was, but you're kind of blinded because you were like, I really fucking hate this movie.
That was my introduction to her, basically.
Well, you should see some of her stuff on SNL. She's a super funny lady, and her comedy is based on delivery, not necessarily the material written. That's why I think she's great, because she can take something as simple as a regretful speech and make it super funny.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you haven't watched the episode, right?
No, I haven't.
Maybe you should get around to it then. She does have some funny bits. You could tell she had like things planned for the episode and all that stuff. And she has like these like mannerisms, she says, where like she'll take little pieces of paper and she'll roll them up into like fake cigarettes, and she'll just like to play with them and stuff. She seems like a funny person by nature, you know. It doesn't seem forced in any way. That's what was kind of like appealing about that episode. I was like, okay, this is kind of what I like to see. It's like if I'm not seeing somebody with a lot of experience, at least I'm seeing some funny person in their natural habitat, you know, seeing how they work or how they create situations or bits or whatever, you know. Who else is on that list? I know
well, there's a couple of heavy hitters like from back in the day. Dana Carvey was one.
Okay, the Dana Carvey one is good.
Yeah.
Surprisingly. Because
that was surprising to me that you said that, because to be honest, Dana Carvey hasn't been in the public eye since.
If you're judging
Master of Disguise.
Okay, but I would tell you the same thing that you just told me about
No.
McKinnon. If
you're gonna judge, wait. I said hasn't been in the public eye. I didn't say he wasn't funny.
You said when you saw Dana Carvey, you said, "Wow, that episode must suck." That's what you said.
Yeah, because he hasn't been around in years. What could he possibly have to say?
What does that mean? Does that mean he's not funny just because he's not in the public eye?
It's just like, what does he have to talk about?
Okay, all right.
Look at least one of my favorite episodes in the the second or first season. I forget which one is Ellen DeGeneres. Was Elaine. I forget her real name.
Okay.
Because she's done such a big body of work, and recently
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Dreyfus, yeah, there you go. She was in Veep when she was filming that, and it's hilarious, dude. Like all the stuff that she's done, even that weird sitcom she did, the New Adventures of Old Christine. I would catch glimpses of that, and I'm like, this is so funny.
You would catch glimpses of it, but you still didn't want to watch it.
I didn't have TV. I just had Netflix.
Okay, whatever. What is your point with all this?
I'm saying that like Dana doesn't have anything he's doing right now.
He does. He has a Vegas show.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he has a Vegas show with John Lovitz, I think.
What is he doing? The producers?
I don't know what he's doing. No, that's Mel Brooks.
Okay, it doesn't mean he can't do the play.
I don't know, Ernie. I want to talk about the fucking episode, and you're bringing up all this random shit.
Talk about the episode.
It's a good episode because you can tell that guy just genuinely likes to make people laugh. He says like, well, in that episode, he's just somebody. Well, obviously Jerry. Somebody asked him. Jerry asks him like, "What's it all worth? Why do you do this?" And then you know like. They like because you know people say like people go to Vegas to just die or whatever. That's where the bit ends or whatever they say about it. And he's just like, because I love making people laugh. You know, people go to comedy clubs when they're having hard times, and that's why people come out of comedy clubs saying like, I really needed that. You know, and I was like, wow, that's such a like. What a nice thing to say about like comedy. Like you could totally tell that guy loves doing what he does, and he has kids now that apparently are doing stand-up as well. I didn't know that. But it's always kind of cool, too, when you see Jerry talk to somebody else with kids, because you can tell that Jerry loves having children. Like, you could tell that was, like, what he wanted to do with his life, is just have kids and be a father and all this shit.
That's probably what made it so easy for him to walk away from his show.
Yeah, sure.
Because they offered him so much money to stay for another season. He was just like, nah.
Oh, good. Really?
They wanted to keep going. Dana Carvey, my experience with Dana Carvey has always been SNL. Like the church lady, all that kind of stuff from back in the day. That was my, he was part of the cast. So I've always kind of put him there.
Okay.
Aside from that, like I never saw Master of Disguise, anything like that.
That's the only way I knew of him as a child was Master of Disguise, actually. I didn't think the movie was that funny.
I mean, do you realize that he was in Wayne's World?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know who.
Like
he
some
is
people
now.
don't know. I've talked to people and they don't know that that's him.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, there's an old SNL skit actually that he brings up, not in that episode, but later in another episode where he says that before anybody knew who Jerry Seinfeld was, they said that Dana Carvey, Tom Hanks, and somebody else were doing a bit where they were just like, those three guys said that, oh, we went to a comedy club and we saw this loud-ass comedian and the way he was talking was just so funny, so they decided to make fun of him on Saturday Night Live doing like quote-unquote bad bits. And so the sketch is essentially all three of them doing a Jerry Seinfeld impression, and they didn't even know who he was because he wasn't even big yet. So I was like, oh, that's so funny. Like, what a fucking coincidence, you know?
That's so stupid.
And it's funny, too, because Jerry said that as he was watching that episode, he was like, those quote-unquote bad... those bad bits, he was like, those were making me laugh. He was like, I like that. That sounded like shit that I would say. And I was like, oh, that's so funny. He mentioned that in the Ellen DeGeneres episode, which is actually... I don't know anything about that woman. I'm not like a fan of hers or anything. Apparently, Ellen DeGeneres had a girlfriend that died in a car accident. I did not know that. So when that's
about as much as I know about it. That's about it.
Yeah, when they start the episode with like, oh yeah, they get into the car. Oh, here's your funky car. This car's kind of like you, whatever. And they get in the car and then they're driving. She's just like, yeah, my 25-year-old girlfriend died in a car accident. I was like, what? You're the one with the talk show, right? I think I know that about you. I don't know too much.
Ellen, it's crazy to think Ellen's had a huge stand-up career before she was Ellen DeGeneres, the TV show host. Cindy and I used to watch her comedy special.
Apparently she used to have a sitcom that failed. I didn't know that.
Ellen, it didn't fail.
Ellen? It was a sitcom, right?
Yeah.
It did fail according to her because it got canceled. Which, okay, let me just relay the episode to you then.
Well, the only reason I say that is because she came out on the show as the character, and then she came out for real at the same time.
As gay, right?
Yeah. Well, what else would you come out as?
You said come out like I thought she was a guest or something.
No.
She talking about.
Well, yeah, when you talk about Ellen.
Hold on.
Okay.
From the mouth of Ellen.
Okay.
She came out on the show as gay, and she was criticized for it, and they canceled the show.
Right.
So that's what happened.
Right. It was, but
so the show's not around anymore.
No, but I'm saying it wasn't a failure because it was getting ratings, but it was like canceled because somebody was like, I don't like that you're gay.
Okay, I see.
You know what I mean? Like if it was a show that didn't do well because they weren't making people laugh, I consider that a failure. But just they got canceled because she came out or whatever, that's different.
Honestly, to me, she almost seems like a female Jerry Seinfeld.
She's really funny, dude. Like if you've ever there's this the comedy special that we have, she talks about procrastination and all the little jokes she has about it, they all loop back to the very beginning of the entire, like it's almost like watching a thesis of comedy. And her putting in place every single piece before she like does the kibosh at the end.
It kind of sounds like that's how her writing process is, because she sounds like she kind of like writes a lot of shit down and then like structurizes it, you know?
It does seem like that.
Okay, so she talks about how she lost her first girlfriend, right? And she says like what she started writing down wasn't even necessarily like a bit. It was just like, she was like, people always like pray to God or whatever, right? And she's like, what if there was like a phone to call God? What would that be like? And she said like as she was writing this down, it just kind of naturally became funny to her because of the situations that would actually happen in real life. So like she was like, if you actually did call God on the phone, it would probably ring for a really long time, you know, right? And then like as soon as somebody answers the phone, oh, you know, you're put on hold and it's a fucking song. It's like a Christian song, obviously. And she's like, so things like this. And then she said that as when she was done writing or whatever, it was like fucking pages of this like quote unquote bit or this stand up, this first draft of like this stand up that she had. So
do you think that was the stand up that she's going to be premiering on Netflix soon?
No, that was her first thing.
Oh,
so okay. Apparently this was the same thing that she fine-tuned and she did on Johnny Carson, and she was the first woman ever to be on Johnny Carson as a stat.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like I'm learning a lot about this person that I didn't know about, so that's kind of cool. But like I said, she is a lot like Jerry Seinfeld, because seeing them walk together, they're just both like these like
super cash,
chipper, happy, like nice people, and like they're both like very well known, because some of the comedians on there aren't very well known. But like everyone's stopping them, like, oh my god, like let me say hi to you. And her and Jerry are both the kind of person that's just like, yeah, come take a picture, well, whatever, like.
By the way, one interesting point, just because you reminded me of it. Zach and Jerry have a very poignant conversation about the expectation of privacy.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's a very good point, because Jerry's like, he's like, I think that guy's filming us. He's like, let him. And he's like, I just want to live my life. And he's like, yeah, but you're in the public. There's no privacy in the public.
Yeah.
That's why it's called the public.
Yeah.
And it made me laugh, because it was like so elementary, and yet people like Zach are like, I deal with people every fucking day. Can't I just have some me time? He's like, you can't. That's kind of the price of being famous, isn't it? If you want to be private, you got to go into your house and in your private residence kind of thing, you know?
It's funny, too, because I feel like in that instance, too, he kind of made Zach sound like a drama queen or something.
A little bit.
Because he's like, it's like Zach is like new age, just starting to deal with all this crap, and Jerry's just like, dude, it's been like 20 years that I've been doing.
And then Zach tries to fire back. He's like, well, what if somebody wants to take a picture of you while you're on the toilet or something? Like, I forget what exactly he said, but Jerry just laughs it off, because it's like, the two are so separate, but Zach's just trying to get at him.
Zach says something like, I have a show for you, celebrity toilet cam.
There you go, that's what it was. And he just laughs, because like, that's hilarious. And I think in the same way, if you're describing it, I think Ellen kind of understands that she's just now a public figure, and she can't have a lot of expectation of privacy. If they're just walking around and be like, yeah, come on, take a picture. It seems like get it over with as quickly as possible, and then everybody will be on their way, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, but that's true, yeah. But I also wanted to say that it just kind of seemed like they're very genuinely happy people. Like, it's not an act. You know what I'm saying?
No, well, like, I can tell you that since Jerry has his finances taken care of for the rest of his life, I don't think he ever has to worry about that. So that's got to put a smile on your face, right?
As I was saying, I was kind of going down the line of these episodes. I'm not a huge fan of Alec Baldwin either, but I watched his episode, and that was a great episode as well. Just because it's like, Jerry and him are both from New York, and they have a lot to talk about, like reminiscing and all that stuff.
Can I ask you a question about it?
What?
Alex, sorry. Alec had a bit of trouble.
Just one, Alex.
Just one.
Yeah.
He had a bit of trouble back in the day. He got in trouble.
He didn't bring that up.
Okay.
Yeah, because apparently...
They probably kind of talked about it off screen, and they're like, I don't want this on there.
When 30 Rock was ending or something, right? He was like, please keep the show going. I have nothing to do. You don't remember that?
No.
Okay, he was offering, like... I was going to say Liz Lemon. What the fuck's her name? Tina Fey.
Tina Fey.
He was like, I'll front the money for the next season. Just let it go for one more season. She didn't want to do it. Because everyone's tired. It was like...
Well, it wasn't that I was tired. Right? It's just that there had to be a close to Liz Lemon. She was getting older.
Yeah. But they don't bring that up. Because, there was... I know there was... There was a time where, like, every month there was, like, a new Alec Baldwin story about him attacking a paparazzi or something. Or like,
well, it was that he was recorded yelling at somebody.
Yeah.
And, like, not necessarily doing, like, racial slurs, but talking, like, yelling at somebody. I think it was his daughter or something like that. I could be completely wrong, but I remember he got in trouble for something like that and wasn't, touched now.
You're not talking about Dog the Bounty Hunter, are you?
No, I'm not talking about that.
Well, Alec Baldwin also did... There was, like, a paparazzi taking pictures of him, and he, like, put him in a chokehold or something. So there was that. They don't bring that up.
They probably don't. They want to keep it light.
They talk more about the fact that they both have kids. And Alec Baldwin says something to the to the
effect
of like Or no, I think it was Jerry. I'm sorry. Whatever. Anyway, nobody cares. He says something. He says something like, "We were the last generation, or we're the first generation to have a real childhood. So we project that onto our kids and say, well, I want their childhood to be even better." So his kind of like joke is like, our parents, they didn't have childhood. They just dealt with everything that was
right.
And I was like, that's kind of funny because that is kind of true to some extent. You do kind of feel like your parents were like, they just dealt with shit. There wasn't like any like happy times in their life, and then like you as a parent now are like, I need to make this kid's childhood amazing because I know how important that was to me as a kid. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I thought that was pretty funny, and there was something that Alec Baldwin said that I fucking forgot. Whatever. It's a pretty good episode though. Especially if you're kind of like not a fan of Alec Baldwin, I would say still check it out. Because
I'm a pretty big fan of his comedy, but it's hard to watch him when you realize the kind of stuff that he's into, and by stuff I mean like his views on politics, all that kind of stuff.
Is he a Republican?
Well, I don't want to get it too much into it because I don't want to kind of sour people that are against him. But like, I loved him on 30 Rock. He does such a fantastic job on SNL. Not recently because I don't like the Trump stuff. I think it's kind of just.
It's a bit played out, yeah.
And it's not that. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. It's like, this guy's an idiot. We all kind of know, and everybody's doing that impression, and our president or whatever. And it's just like back in the day when people were doing George Bush jokes.
Yeah.
I got tired of that too. It was just like, okay, we get it. He's an idiot. And we're all making fun of him. We get it.
It's an easy joke, I guess.
Shooting fish in a barrel, you know?
Right, yeah.
But when he used to go on there to be just, Alec Baldwin doing his thing on that, it was just super funny. I used to love that. He was even on Friends.
You're right, yeah.
Doing his thing, and he was a very different character. Love Alec Baldwin. He's a great actor.
And another 30 Rock star, Tracy Morgan, is on Comedians in Cars.
Was that post or the accident or pre the accident?
The post or pre? No, it was after the coma. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he actually mentions it very.
How does
briefly.
He mention it, Steve?
He says, "You know why I can't stop talking, Jerry? Because I was in a coma for 6 days." That's what he says verbatim.
That was a pretty good impression,
Thanks.
Steve.
I gotta say, that episode was not very funny.
And you think it would be, right?
Yeah, because he's like he says he's got
Tracy
a lot to
Morgan.
talk about. Yeah. It honestly was like a lot of Jerry like imparting wisdom to him, and he was just sitting there like kind of listening like with a serious face, like, holy shit, I didn't know this about comedy.
I tend not to like those episodes. I like the episodes where the guest talks more than Gary.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure. And there was some comedians that I didn't know, so I'm not gonna repeat their names because I'm gonna fuck them up. But Neil Brennan is on.
Who's that?
Neil Brennan, the co-creator of Chappelle's Show.
Oh, Neil!
Yeah, also known as
just Neil.
Chappelle's best friend in the world.
Yeah, the white guy, Neil. Is like, apparently shooting slave owners is only funny to me and Neil.
Yeah. That guy. His episode was okay. You could tell he has kind of like not like an edgier style of comedy, but he's definitely more like opposite Jerry, where like Jerry gives a shit about
and
things.
That's what I'm saying. Like when I was talking about Chappelle, they have such a different type of comedy. That I don't understand Chappelle's. Like when they're sitting there talking, they seem like the same kind of comedian, but their material is vastly different.
Well, because Dave Chappelle seems like the kind of person who like plays along. Mm-hmm. Neil is not the kind of person who plays along.
Really?
Yeah. He was like straight up telling Jerry like, yeah, I've seen maybe like 7 episodes of your show. I hate sitcoms. So, and like things like that. So it's an interesting episode, but it's not my favorite. And I mean, I don't have much to say about the Jerry Lewis episode because I didn't. This guy was way before my time. Jerry Lewis was like
Jerry Lewis. I could tell you some stuff about Jerry Lewis, and maybe that'll give you a little more perspective.
Well, I know what I saw on the show, and apparently he's like a comedy legend, but I don't know too much about Jerry Lewis.
In as much as he pioneered a certain type of comedy, where it was like the Nutty Professor, Cinderfellow, all these kind of movies where he's kind of playing these roles, but he's playing them in a very dorky.
Did you say the Nutty Professor?
Yeah, that's what the original.
Oh, that was an original. That was a remake.
I believe it was a remake. Yeah,
okay.
Where it's like the Flubber thing, and he's the Nutty Professor, and he's got
Flubber? That's a different movie.
Yeah, but it's that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, and his comedy was very like what is it? Physical and visual slapstick. A lot of stereotypes and all that kind of stuff.
It was. He actually they showed a clip from one of his movies that was kind of funny. Like it was that kind of like, oh, it's still funny to this day. And he was a bellboy. Oh,
that's kind of famous, yeah.
And there's like 3 phones, and one of them rings, and he can't tell which one's ringing. And he keeps answering the wrong phone, and when he's gonna pick up the one that by process of elimination he's gonna pick up the right phone, but it stops ringing, and so he gets mad, and it keeps happening, and it's kind of funny. Like,
I mean it's kind of interesting that what's it called? The physical humor of it follows kind of in the same vein as like Buster Keaton and stuff, but now it has sound. He was kind of whenever you hear somebody trying to be funny and wacky, it's usually kind of an imitation of Jerry Lewis. Like when people go,
yeah,
that's him.
Actually, there's a character on Animaniacs who is the embodiment of Jerry Lewis. That reoccurring character,
right? Yeah, the actor who essentially plays all of the Jerry Lewis.
Yeah,
parts.
He says what the thing and the way, and he goes, "Hey, lady." Yeah,
and you know what's funny is that transcends even to The Simpsons. The professor of The Simpsons goes with he's like with the lightning and the scary and don't hurt me, and I was like, that's a Jerry Lewis impression.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. And that's what I came to realize as I was watching that episode. I was like, oh, okay. So
still to this day, that nutty professor look is transcendent almost throughout all these different like he became the stereotype professor.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So and it's one of these episodes where Jerry's kind of just in awe with like he's like starstruck. He's just like, oh man, this guy's
it's Jerry Lewis, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally. You see that now, and you're just like, dude, it's too heavy-handed. Like it's way too heavy-handed. Like how like clumsy he is, and how awkward he is, and he's got the big teeth put in, and like the big thick glasses.
Oh yeah,
and you're just like,
it's definitely over.
Wow, you know,
it's over the top. It's very unsubtle. It's in your face.
Yeah, but this is what they grew up with, and I think that's why Jerry's probably super starstruck at meeting Jerry Lewis.
Yeah, and apparently he passed away like a couple months after that or something. So that's pretty.
Because he was like 90 something, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm not saying like he's old. Don't do the episode, but the episode was very like dude, this guy is old. And like I like just fucking let him.
Oh my god!
Like let him rest. You know how like you're kind of watching The Force Awakens and Han Solo's just old, and you're just like,
don't. It's I know. It's like, listen, I was watching not even The Force Awakens. I was watching Indiana Jones 4, and you're just like, he should not be doing this. He's gonna break something.
When we were watching Indiana Jones 4, I in my head I was just like, dude, just let him fucking live his life, dude. How many years does this guy have left? Just leave him alone. Like, jeez.
I mean, it's true. It's just like he was. Like I saw I've seen Jerry Lewis as of recently, and he looks like you mean pictures of him before he died? Because when he did die, lots of pictures of him, and he looked pretty.
Yeah. I guess
he was 91, by the way. 91.
That's a full-ass life.
It is a full-ass life. And, he did so much, like, charity work and all that stuff. So, good guy all
And apparently he used to eat bacon, like, every single day. Like, the crispiest bacon.
Oh, my gosh.
So, for him to live...
What a weird fun fact. Well, and he ate bacon every day, just like Michael Scott.
Well, for him to live to 91 is pretty amazing. They tell you bacon's terrible for you, right? So,
Well, everything in moderation. I think there was another news clip recently where this lady lived till like 96 or something. She's like, what do? I drank a Dr. Pepper every day.
Really?
For this many years. Yeah, it's just some weird old lady. And she's like, I drink Dr. Pepper and I smoke and I drink and blah, 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 and just live life.
Okay.
Just like there's just these weird things. Because that's the first thing anybody asks a person that's lived that long is like, what's the secret to living long? And they're just like, I don't, like, anybody really knows.
Yeah.
So they say the stupidest thing that comes to mind.
So how much did Dr. Pepper pay for that one, you think?
I don't think they paid it all.
Okay.
I think they're all like free publicity.
Nice, yeah. if I was Pepsi, I would have slid in there and been like, hey, you know what? Just instead of Dr. Pepper, say Pepsi. You know,
just say Pepsi.
That might be the same company, actually. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Dr. Pepper and Pepsi? I don't think so. Pepsi is owned by Yum.
By what?
Yum.
What is that?
Yum is a big conglomerate of all these different fast food
But
chains.
Pepsi Cola owns Mountain Dew, right? And they own
yeah, but they're all owned by Yum Foods.
Oh, that's weird.
Which is why if you go to a Taco Bell, they only serve Pepsi there because they're all together under the same whatever.
I see. Okay.
Don't get into all that because that's a super boring topic. But I know a lot about it for some reason.
Well, yeah, we can close out here. It's fine. I'm
gonna keep watching Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee because it's such an interesting show to be able to just watch.
Yeah, I would say just go by the ones that you like first.
Yeah,
and then eventually, trickle down to whichever ones that are left. Because I actually kind of enjoyed the formula of the show by the end of what is this
season 3?
It's been 30 episodes at least that I've watched now. The first episodes I skipped the car part at the beginning. Mm-hmm. But then I just started watching and I was like, all right, it's kind of interesting. You could tell Jerry has a passion for these things and he goes out and it seems like he does try and get a car that matches the guest or whatever. It
gets better in season 3. I'll tell you that.
It's a little funner.
And by the way, his cinematography's gotten way better in season 3.
Yeah, that's why I said the latest episodes are some of the best because you could tell they have the most budget, I guess. Or
I guess it's just and before it was just this is a blah 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 blah, and it's a special guest blah blah blah. This is Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Yeah,
super fast. Now it's there's a little intro with the car.
Yeah, sometimes he has a skit too.
So it's a little skit. It's not too bad,
no,
but
some of them are pretty lame. If I'm being completely honest.
It's better than the one where he picks up Elaine and he's just you're the assassin of comedians or something, you're the secret agent of comedians, and I was like, what is this, Jerry?
Oh, the Aston Martin.
Yeah, I was like, this is weird. But when he picks up Zach Galifianakis, he does a little Jurassic Park thing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny. It took 2 seconds and it's funny. I like it. But the cinematography overall has gotten better. Them in the car, them at the coffee shop. I think they've been doing it for so long now that they set up the shots beforehand, because even their angles and everything are nicely done.
Yeah, and that show makes me want to drink coffee every time I watch it.
It makes me want donuts too.
Yeah, just pastries.
Him and Zach eat 10 donuts.
Yeah,
and they just keep getting donuts. And then I've never done it before, and I don't know why I've never done it, but this was last week was the first time I dipped my donut in my coffee and drank it. I don't know why I've never tried that. Okay. But Zach was doing it on the show. I was like, that looks good. It's good. It's like an Oreo dipping in milk. It's just it's good. You just have to do it lightly though. You can't stick the whole thing in there and whatever. Just get a little bit of it.
Okay.
Get some extra. You get a little bit of the bitterness of the coffee with the donut. I think that's why they call Dunkin' Donuts, right?
Sure. Did you just make that up? Nice. Yeah, but I would say, like I said, go ahead and check it out, especially if you're into comedy, because it's got a lot of that behind the scenes kind of shit that aspiring comedians, aspiring funny people, even just creative people in general. I think it's cool to see the process, the gutty works of how that stuff comes together. I think it's very interesting.
I think the comedians are this underappreciated interview material because they have such a unique view of life. That it's interesting to get their take on it.
Yeah, it's
because I don't know, they have such witty things to say. It's how did you get there? How did you make that observation?
Yeah, this guy Brian Regan is on the show. I've never heard of this guy. He's a stand-up comedian apparently. Apparently. And he says oh yeah, it was funny when I would get panned by critics, and I'm just like, really? I did bad because the crowd says otherwise. It's true. It's everyone objectifies comedy in their own way. Everyone it's very subjective to anyone's opinion. And his thought process is just well, I just had 200 critics telling me their reviews last night, so I don't give a shit what this guy in the paper has to tell me the next day. So I was that's interesting. I like that. It's just about reading the crowd. It's not necessarily about
True.
Whatever, yeah.
And if I can add something,
sure.
The 3 Chappelle Show or the three
specials?
Dave Chappelle specials.
Yeah, I might watch this because I haven't watched it yet.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's weird. They're three very different shows. It's hard to describe them.
Like the tone of them?
The tone of them is so different. Like if you watch the first one, it's like old school Dave, right? Okay. Second one is like this. He's in San Antonio, Texas, and he's smoking on stage.
Right.
So it's a very different vibe. Like he's way more relaxed. And then the third one, he's in this intimate little comedy club, and he's sitting on the stool and telling these like really funny stories.
That's cool. All right.
Watch them. I think they are hilarious. I've watched them multiple times. That's how funny I think they are. Yeah. Okay. I could tell you the jokes, but no, it's like it's so.
Don't ruin it. Just let them watch it themselves. But that does it for this week, guys. See you next week.
See you next week, guys.